Thank you. Next, we're going to have our featured poet. Her name is Nina. Her name is Nina Thorne. We're in the same writers group out in Plymouth called Freshwater Poets. I first met Nina a couple of years ago, actually about 3 years ago, I think it was, at Maxwell's where we were doing Blues and Muse out there in Garden City. And I was so impressed with her writing, and she's only grown over that time. Beautifully married since then to Mike, who's here with her tonight. And her parents also are here to see and listen to Nina. And as luck would have it, get to be an old timer, you forget things, and I forgot Nina's bio. But I know her well enough to tell you that she's done beautiful work over these 3 years that I'm aware of, and prior to that, because she was such a fine writer when I met her, and so much better now. When I heard her read the last thing I heard her read called After a While, a few months ago, I said to Nina, you have to come here and be our featured speaker because it's such beautiful writing, and I think you'll agree with me. And hopefully Nina will tell you how she got inspired into writing as a young girl. So, without further ado, here's Nina Thorne.
Thank you, Chico. I will start by telling you a little bit about how I got into writing. I was about 12 years old, and my grandfather had just entered a poetry contest. And I thought that was pretty cool. He read it to us, and I figured, hey, if my grandpa can do it, I can do it, right?
Thank you, Ira.
And thank you. So I figured if my grandpa could do it, I could do it. And so I started writing and really haven't stopped. So my grandfather was also a great storyteller. And that love of stories has inspired and influenced me in all of my writing. So I'd like to share a few of those with you right now. Lady Archetype, Muse. Once upon a time, every time is once upon a time. She was forever traveling, visiting fairies when no one else would. She was serenaded by the stars, and she remembered them in her dreams. Her fingers wrote new words, ones no one would ever know. Her body was the rhythm of the moon, her heart the river, and her legacy is the unconscious remembrance that all writers dip into to find their words. A life of words. She shingled her roof with words and used them as siding for her house. Her bank and the underside of her mattress were stuffed with them. She kept words in jars in the pantry, in mothballs in the attic, and in frames in the parlor. She hid words between pages, pressing them into sentences or displaying them in vases. She'd embroider them onto linens and dresses, adding stems and leaves. She painted them onto dishes. She counted words to go to sleep. She sent them in sympathy or congratulations. She rescued words, named them, and buried them in the garden when they died. The Mud Woman. Some days I want to be the Mud Woman, grounded and stuck to the earth. The woman of certainty, not working against herself like the sand woman, or unyielding like the rock woman. Some days I want to feel the moss growing on my curves and feel the rain meld with my skin, intensifying my rusty reds, browns, and ochres, knowing that though the sun may crack my surface, the rain will make me whole again. This next one was inspired by a short film that I saw by Maya Deren called At Land. And it's the title of it is taken from her nickname, which is Ilinka. Crawling over sand, rocks, and upset dinner dishes, what do you see when you look back at land from the dining table ship? She tells me she loves. She strips down to the barest of essentials, slips toes into the grass, and clings to the roots. She watches as water runs down her arms, dripping off her fingertips, runs down breasts, down thighs, and knees. She can feel the water sink into the grass. She feels like she is raining, nourishing the plants. She tells me she loves rainy days. She walks to the river some days, bearing her body to the water, feeling the current whisk around arms, torso, legs, feeling fish and plants brush her legs. It reminds her of the grass and its insects. She wonders if the insects would grow big like the bass in fishermen's tales. I caught a mantis that was this big. She tells me she loves river days. On vacation, she goes to the beach. She does not bear anything. She wraps up in a long muumuu and hides under a floppy hat like a beetle under a rock. Water does not drip off her fingers and toes into the grass. Water does not whisk around her. Sand does not nourish. The salt water does not grow insects. She tells me she loves beach days. You are the gypsy girl, the moon-born, goat girl who breathes in water and exhales smoke. You live in mandolin strings, subway cars, poetry journals, strings of wooden beads, and grandfather's pipe. On happy, sad days, we will walk barefoot in the mud until we are too lost to follow the trail of empty bottles. The song begins, once upon a dream, but that's not where we met. We met in a book, between the fresh paper and ink smudges. I still have the imprint of the comma on my foot. We wandered through the words and lithographs with your sister to guide us. Outside of the pages, I heard your voice calling through the distance. But when I awoke, all I heard was the dial tone. So like a ghost whisper, a ghost traveler, I crossed the pages to speak with you again. And you were there, pressed into the page in black ink. And this next one is an old one, and one of my favorites actually that I recently reworked. It's called Nameless. I walk along the shoreline, faceless, nameless, and soon forgotten. Years ago, I was washed up, so here I stayed, nameless. So here I dreamed, faceless, alone, but not lonely, floating in the waves, invisible, faceless, nameless, listening to the sea calling to me. I know your face, I know your name. Set sail today and be nameless no more. And I don't just write poetry, I also write stories. This one is a short story. I call it my short poetic story. It's called Forgotten. She stayed up all night because she promised him she'd call at sunrise. At sunrise, she forgot how to write stories, but she knew there was poetry in her veins and that it had to get out. That is why she didn't call. She wrote poems on resumes, receipts, on saucers and napkins. She took out ads in the newspaper. Her stories became smudged lipstick and soot. Since she couldn't read them, she tossed them onto the pile of other forgotten things. He went through her trash to speak to her. Receipts, broken dishes, and discarded papers. He saved empty lipstick tubes and hid her words inside. He awoke just before sunrise and waited by the moon. The sun rose, the moon set. She didn't call. He waited until sunset, then went out. While he was out, she left a message on his answering machine. He never listened to it. He just stared at the light, trying to figure out solar Morse code. Eventually, he forgot all about her papers, dishes, and lipstick tubes. He forgot who she was, but her words stayed. He set his alarm for sunrise. She called, but he told her it was a wrong number, even though all her words were right. She kissed the moon and bled poetry into the stars. By the time he saw the red moon and stars, all that was left of her was the blinking light on the answering machine and empty lipstick tubes. This next one is inspired by Virginia Woolf's book, Orlando, about, well, it starts off, Orlando spends 200 years as a man and then spends the next 200 years as a woman. And I thought that was a really interesting idea, so I wrote a poem about it. Orlando. Beautiful boy, girl, woman, man, my Orlando, ensconced in self and 400 tree rings of poetry, long-haired beauty, poet-eyed, grass-limbed dreamer, with lovers numbering blades of grass and waves on the sea. Let me live in your breast pocket where your poems live. One more, and this is the one that Chico was talking about. So Chico, this one is for you. After a while. After a while, it all starts to fade. The late night readings, imagining it is your voice I hear instead of my own. Messages left on voicemails, each one replayed and saved daily, until an accidental drowning kills your messages. And I wonder, are my words still burned into your skirt? Are my ink stains still on your hem and high heels? After a while, it all starts to fade. The sound of your voice, the smell of your pipe, the touch of your pen on paper. After a while, it all starts to fade, except the taste of your words in my brain. Thank you.